Hi, it's Steve. Great to meet up with you and do some further work on your game. Just a quick recap on the key points that we covered this session and a look at the work you've done in between sessions. First of all, great work on getting back into flexion from P4 to P5 with the pelvis and the right knee. That was causing us severe problems, and it was causing the right elbow to drop down behind the right hip. We tended to come off the wall very quick, started to push up really before we'd even gone down into the ground, which is not a great way of you generating extra club head speed. So much better work in regards to that. I also think P4 now is looking much tidier, and there's much less of a dropping of the butt of the club. You can see there that previously the butt of the club would drop down from its finishing point, if you will, as you transition, and it doesn't tend to do that now. It doesn't drop under plane quite as much as can be seen by the position we're in at P6. Club's a little bit out in front of the hands, which is what the subsequent session was all about. But overall, a much better look at P4. The one thing we did touch on was that your tendency is to hold on to a little bit too much flex in this right knee, sometimes in an attempt to sort of make sure it's there at P5. You tend to hold on to it and can sometimes actually flex the knee a little bit more as you transition there. Now you can see the right knee starting to flex just as you get to the top, so it's straightening nicely and then just starting to flex a little bit too soon. So we've given you the exercises to work on that. When you're doing the backswing, do it with the right leg locked so that we get used to being in that position. And then the transitional drill, if you will, when you're in your hotel room practicing, is more to do with getting back into flexion by P5.5 or P5 really, and doing it with a lower body, doing it with the knees and the hips. But good work in that respect. What we were finding, we were continuing to flex forward. You can see the right shoulder working out in front of you a little bit too much, and the club was getting out in front of the hands, and we were tending to hit a lot of pulls like we see with that one there. You can see the ball just starting off a little bit low and a little bit to the left, and that's really what we wanted to try and combat during the session. What we also see here from face on is a much better P1. P2, yeah, a little bit of a divine of the elbows, but nowhere near as much as we used to have in the past. The maintaining of the right knee flex causes you to lift a little bit at the top with the arms rather than completing the backswing with the extension of the upper body and the right leg. So the right leg straightening would create better extension, a little bit more side bend to the left at the top, extending the thoracic, propelling the butt of the club further, whereas here we just sort of collapse the arms a little bit. But not a bad position at the top. Much tighter than we used to get. I mean, we used to be pushing up with that left leg straight away from P4. You can see there now, keeping the flex in the left knee, creating a much tighter P6. Release points in a really good position there now. Hitting down on the golf ball, left knee flex, usually a sign that we're hitting it with negative loft. Much quieter with the hands through impact, and a much better looking finish position as well. Hips moving forward beautifully. The one thing we did discuss is obviously when the club gets out in front of you, there's just a little bit too much to do too late in the piece now to get that club back in. You can see the neck of the club being presented to the ball. So flexing forward from 4 to 5 with the lower body, from 5 to 5.7 with the upper body. Now we want to start, well, we should have started pushing up already really, but we just leave it a little bit too late. So remember, as the upper body is going back into flexion, the lower body has already started to push up and extend. Club a little bit out in front of the hands, this ball dispatched a little bit low and to the left. So what we did here now is we set up a spectrum of pushes for you out on the range. You can see we've got the canes out in front of the ball. Cane on the left is the target line, and then we've got 3 distinct push shots that we want you to work your way through, almost like working a musical scale. You're going to start with the biggest push. I'm just going to work this through here now. So shot 1 will be the biggest push. See the arms working in, and we talked about that. That's just a consequence of the drill. I'm not too worried about P4 becoming compromised, if I'm being honest. So we've got the first push, and we've got the club in. That position. Hitting out of the ball for a little bit longer. You can see it's dispatched higher. Quite a high exit on this one, which you'd expect to see. As the club was in more and you were trying to hit a bigger push. Calm the club face down somewhat. And interestingly enough with yourself, Steve, when you're working through this push spectrum, the actual the arms stay on the body much better. The finish is a little bit lower and you're able to stop quicker even though you're hitting the push. One of the reasons for that is because the club is in more at 6, you don't have to work as hard from 6 to 7. So previously your extension and the pushing up was kicking in really, really late and really, really aggressively to prevent the club coming across the ball too much. So the second push that we hit, we're now hitting the medium push. Got the club head in a little bit less. As a result, we've got the exit a little bit lower. And what this drill is for you to learn to push up and extend at a nice steady rate from about P5.5. When we did this drill, we asked you to make some P3 swings. You can see in the backswing it does go past P3, but we want to feel from when the left arm's parallel in the downswing, the lower body now should be starting to push up. Just take that back. You see when you're hitting the smallest push, the club is more in line with the hands. Club tracing the circle much better. And again, that's bringing the exit down gradually. So as you work through that spectrum of pushes, we get the club in varying degrees. We're extending, if you will, in varying rates. And more importantly, we're learning to control the exit a little bit as well. So we're trying to establish the shot cone and the outer edge of that cone, but we can use that spectrum to control what's happening with the club face and what's happening with the path of the club. So I quite like, personally for now, I quite like that medium push. This was, I think this was early on in the session when we were working the spectrum. We had some quite extreme pushes in there, but this medium push, you see now that right shoulder doesn't work out in front of you quite as soon. Right screen, Steve, bear with me. So here we've got lower body getting back into flexion, but the right shoulder gets a little bit, it gets very square a little bit too soon, whereas here we've still got a bit of angle in it. And I'm just going to sync these two swings up at P6. See the shaft continuing to tumble forward, whereas here the shaft works more down the right forearms, more on plane. So with the club in more at 6, we can now start to push up at a steadier rate, attacking the ball a little bit more from the inside. Right heel doesn't pop out as much, exits lower, head starts to release better, arms stay on the torso for longer as well. So a lot of good stuff in there between now and when we get together in January for your assessment. A lot of work on the getting to the back, top of the backswing with that right leg straight. Work that in away from the golf course whilst practicing doing the mirror work or whatever whichever way you want to do that. Continue your work on getting back into flexion from P4 to P5 with the lower body, and when you're hitting shots, work your way through the push spectrum. Go from biggest to smallest, and then keep working around within those 3 shots. You'll soon get a feel for which one you prefer, and you'll certainly start to see that ball move right to left through the air a little bit more. Good luck with it. Have a great Christmas, and I look forward to cracking on in 2014. Well done.